All right, and we are live. Tracie, thank you so much for coming and joining me today for this edition of Candid with Krista live. I'm very excited to get into this conversation, get all up into your business, personal and business.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting. There's a lot of things that I want to ask you about. And for all of those joining, if you are joining from the future, thank you so much for being here, being a part of this conversation. If you are joining us from the future, please drop me a comment. Let us know that you were here, what your takeaways were from this conversation. We definitely want to hear from you. And so, Tracie, let's talk about it. You know, on this channel, I talk all about midlife and, in particular, pushing against the idea and the notion of the midlife crisis. So I am excited to talk to you about your viewpoint of midlife. We're also, of course, as we get into the conversation, get more into your background. But I want to start by asking you, what does midlife feel like for you? What does it look like? And does it look differently than you expected that it would?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out how I got here. Yesterday I was in junior high. What the hell am I doing here? But I
Yeah.
guess when life keeps happening and you keep living, then you end up here. So um I don't know what midlife looks like for me right now. I think I'm still just kind of grappling with it being this is considered midlife. I think if that, makes any kind
Mhm.
of sense. Because I don't, I see it happening around me and like
Yes.
my core people. And I'm like, I'm not their age, but I am their age.
Mhm.
So it's more of like just trying to come to terms with it. And I don't think I ever will. I just think age is really how you feel. And I feel amazing. I feel great in my body. I'm absolutely loving, where I'm at in my personal journey right now. And
Mhm.
so, yeah. And I love the fact that it's a journey. It's not defined by a destination.
Mhm.
So, we all have peaks and valleys and, life, there are no straight lines in nature. So it's not going to be any straight lines in anyone's life. So, yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. It's kind of like all over the place, like that answer.
You're good. No, that's fine. So when you're saying that you feel good about where you are right now, tell us
Hmm.
a little bit about that. Where are you? And just give us a little bit of insight into your background, because the title of this particular chat is Exits, Pivots, and Peace. Because looking at your background myself and seeing a lot of the things that you've done professionally, what you've done personally in terms of moving abroad, I am really interested to see or hear what that means for you. You feel good about where you are.
Well, um, well, that was like personally, I mean, I feel good about the woman that I am and the girl that I'm becoming. And
Mhm.
so um just I'm really into like optimizing my health right now
Mhm.
and doing things that I have been somewhat limited to while in San Miguel.
Mhm.
And like I'm a big nature girl and
Mhm.
I learned I need lots of lushness around me always.
Mm.
And I'm so fortunate to, having transitioned back to the States a couple of months ago, I
Mhm.
came back and went home to California. Well, California is just where I'm from, but
Mhm.
to visit my mom. And I spent a lot of time just sitting under her lemon tree that I called my office. So
Mm.
lemons are part of my everyday life. I drink lemon warm water every morning to break my fast. That's the first thing that I intake. So getting
Mhm.
fresh lemons off of the tree every morning and having that access. And then I come up here to my friend's farm and I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I'm inside of a forest And
Mm.
so I'm nestled around trees as far as the eye can see. And having that level of being on a farm, being around animals, um, being around trees, walking every morning on the property, like that is something as far as like optimizing my health, immersing myself in nature. So my transition back from abroad has been a real smooth one, because I don't know if you were aware, our transition abroad initially was extremely rocky. And
Mm.
so to come back to the States and it be smooth was been like, it's, really refreshing. And as
Mhm.
far as like myself career wise, well, I mean, I've always, well, for the last, what year are we in?
Over
11 years, I've worked online.
Mhm.
And so it's been, and I designed my life that way for a reason, because I wanted to be able to go anywhere that my computer and Wi-Fi would allow and still
Yeah.
be able to make a living. And so I'm so happy that I've designed my life that way. And, my businesses just continue to evolve and grow just as much as I do. But I am definitely a woman who delegates.
Mhm.
I am a woman who delegates. I am known in my friend group as the one who will do the least and maximize what I know the most.
Love
And
that.
it's just, I'm not going to do anything the hard way. I am
Mm.
not. I refuse to do anything the hard way, because number one, why? And number two, I just choose not to exert my energy in that regard. I can always think my way through things efficiently, and I will
Mm.
delegate accordingly. That means in my personal and professional life.
I love that. I want to repeat that and make sure I got that into my spirit. You said you will do the least and maximize the most. Is that
Mhm.
how you said that? I love that, because I do think that it's very easy to get caught up, because we're told, especially in the States, about productivity
Mhm.
somehow equals your worth, and running yourself in the ground is somehow a lot of times worn as a badge of honor. I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of us are moving away from that, thank goodness. But being able to own that and to move in that, I think is wonderful. And I would love for you to talk to us about your transition. First of all, what took you abroad?
Mhm.
Let's start there. How did that come about?
Um, exhaustion.
Mm.
Exhaustion, just exactly what you said, honestly, and
Mhm.
needing a break from the United States and how things were run.
Mhm.
Um, I created a business, a company at the time that I was really burnt out from. After 23 years of being in that field, I was exhausted. And
Mhm.
it was a lot on me, just personally and professionally. And
Mhm.
so when I transitioned to Mexico, it was just a beautiful eye opener of, I didn't have the pressures of the world on my shoulders.
Mhm.
And and I'm grateful for my years there, because I started going back and forth into Mexico in 2022. And it's a beautiful, beautiful country. It's a beautiful place that allowed me respite.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then, so you said that the reason why you were driven there was for what we were talking about, the burnout.
Yeah.
Now, was this a company? I just want to be clear that this was a company that you had built yourself,
Mhm.
that you were burned out from. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think too, there's an idea where a lot of times you'll hear people talk about being in the corporate sector and being run into the ground, and knowing that people need to make a shift or a pivot. And a lot of times that people do decide, okay, well, maybe if I just do my own thing and shift into entrepreneurship or solopreneurship, maybe that will be the solve or the fix,
Mhm.
where that in itself does or can provide some freedom, but then it also can provide a lot of ups and downs and different types of stressors.
Mhm.
So I am curious to know, what exactly was it inside of your business that you felt you were under, what kind of stress specifically were you under running your own business and needing that respite when you moved to Mexico?
Um, I built a corporation that served a purpose for Black maternal health. And
Mm,
so it was a national company that every time a Black woman died, that was childbirth related, major international newspapers are calling me for my viewpoint on it. Simultaneously, I'm the only one that's getting calls from Medicaid in different regions of the world, different regions of the country, because they want my take on things. And different
right.
corporations wanted to partner with my corporation, but not pay me. And, so it was a lot of that. And then also just the day-to-day operations. And I had a small company. So I had employees and 1099s. And then of course, people that were on my payroll that helped protect me, meaning like your accountants, your attorneys, the things that you need for a company to keep you safe. And,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was just, I was over it. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm
Yes.
done because I, after being in that space, maternal health and wellness for 20 plus years, I grew to that level. And so when I launched the national company, it was in 2017. And I knew at that point, this is not for me. So I knew already I was going to be exiting at some point. And
Mm,
so by the time I exited officially, it was in 2023 when I sold the company. But it was just fatigue on a lot of levels. I was just ready for a career change. But one of the things that I absolutely love was the business aspect. And
mm,
because I see a need for women to be stronger in their business acumen,
mm,
and there is a lot of lack of value in us feeling that we don't have to or should be charging market rate as far as
mm-hmm,
our white counterparts do,
mm-hmm.
because
Yes.
of what society or religion or our families or our own personal insecurities have taught us. And I'm just the stark opposite. I'm like,
Mm,
we're not doing that.
yeah.
So um, so I leaned after exiting that business, I
Mm-hmm.
leaned and crafted that part and working with founders and leaders and helping them to separate their own personal brand and identity from the companies that they create into their own individual brand, because oftentimes we think we are our business, but in all
Mm,
actuality your business is just an extension of you. You are the brilliance that created it. So I
mm,
help founders and leaders create their framework that is centered around licensing so they can create assets. Turning what you know into money. That's basically what I do. I help people get paid off of the stuff that they know. And
mm,
that's why I'm excellent at delegating, because Honey always jokes with me. I was like, I got somebody for that. I have people for that. And I just
mm,
believe in maximizing on other people's expertise, because I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And I don't want to be. Absolutely. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I want people to be able to, whatever their skill set and expertise is, if we can benefit from it, then I want to highlight that. So
yeah.
it's been more of leaning into that and help and supporting others along the way.
Right. Ah, there's so many juicy things in there that you talked about. And I think the thing that jumped out for me is what you said about, we oftentimes will think that our business is part of our identity, or we make it part of our identity,
Yeah.
and being able to separate that. And I think that's so important and profound, because when it is time to make a change, even within something you have built, just like you did in the maternal health sector, that you were like, okay, it's time for me to get up out of here, that I think it's easier for you to be able to make those pivots when you see it through that lens. And
Yeah.
so when you're able to see, okay, this is just part of my story, or this, for this amount of time was part of something that I did and operated in. And now I can move on to something else. But when we make it become our personality or our full identity, it makes it harder to make those pivots and shifts.
Yeah, because you feel like you're letting go of a piece of you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I listen, you're really speaking to me right now because I feel like I personally am sitting in that space right now. And I think that reframing is so incredibly important and powerful in order to be able to do the next thing. And that's exactly what you did. And you teach it so people can see that you not only are saying that this is what you should do, people can look at you as the example and say, this is
I've
this
done it.
you've done it.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's absolutely doable. There's always an answer. There's all, and that's just my optimism, that I'm being an entrepreneur for my entire adult life has taught me is you're gonna have to find a way. If you don't find a way, you're gonna make a way. That's just how I think. But having, been in business for myself for so long has molded me to be that way.
And so once you decided to exit that business and then lean into the business you're currently doing by teaching and helping other women to adopt this sort of mindset for themselves within their business, you moved to Mexico. And so had you always thought about living abroad, or was that just something that came up in the midst of you reevaluating what you needed in order to gain that respite that you were after?
No, I knew I wanted to live abroad as early as 2015. I knew I wanted to have that experience. I never thought it would be Mexico. I thought it would be Costa Rica.
Okay.
But yeah, I knew I was going to do it at some point. Oh, let me open the door. It's really hot in here. Hold on. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't want to pass out.
Listen, we need to be comfortable. We don't want you passing out. So if Mexico wasn't your original choice, how did it become Mexico instead of Costa Rica?
It just started coming up on my radar, like social media. And then when I think it was Rashida who was in Mexico. And then when I went to, no, well, yes, at some point, but it was when the Tulum hype was happening.
Okay.
And it kept coming on TikTok, when Tulum was popping and everybody was going to Tulum. And so Mother's Day 2022, myself and my youngest daughter went to Mexico. And I was like, let me just go because it's quick from Atlanta. I was like, let me just go. Let me just do this whole, hour and 50-minute flight and see what they talking about. Being from California, it's like, Mexico's just down the street. Like, what's the big deal? Like, I don't understand the hype. And so I get to Mexico and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I was like, I see. And then it was about day 5 or 4 into the trip. And I was like, I'm moving to Mexico. And my youngest daughter was like, you're moving to Mexico, Mom? And it's like, first of all, you should never question me if because I can show you better than I can tell you. So
right.
and in August of 2023, that following year, was after being back and forth into Mexico. I think it was like 4 or 5 times at that point, made the transition.
Yeah, and I think that's around the time that I came across your profile at that time, because our timeline is very similar, because I moved to Mexico in July of 2023. And I remember coming across you. It had to have been through one of either Rashida or Adelia or somebody's group or Black Sit Global, something. And then I know that's how we initially connected. And then I just started watching what you were doing, your move, and so on and so forth. And then I randomly met you when you were in Mexico City. And then we just continued the connection. And then, so how did you end up choosing San Miguel Allende in terms of where you would be?
Well, because Mexico City wouldn't rent to us. as a same-sex Black couple, they wouldn't rent to us. They kept telling us
Wait, why?
that's exactly why. Because they can never get us on money. They can never get us on not qualifying that way, but it was it even our realtor Letty, who you met, she was like, I've
Mm-hmm.
never seen this before. I have never seen this before. Hey baby. My daughter is here. I've never seen this before as far as the difficulties in people renting or being able to rent. So if we were one, and because they asked us if we were married, if we were legally married, if we had a prenup, if we were married by a priest or something like that, they it was like things that people would never ask in to rent a place. And so by yeah, and
I'm
by
shocked. I'm sorry you had that experience, number one. Number two, I'm blown away, but please continue.
yeah, after I think we dealt with that for from August through October. So we dealt with that for 2 months because we had applied for three different places and trying to go see places. And, it was all of that, all the thing, even the place that you saw that we
Mhm.
were met out of, they told us we got the place. And then it was like they came up with some asinine excuse why not to rent to us. So it was all of that. So then one night I was just like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of Mexico City. And I don't
Mm,
care where we go because it was either going to be somewhere or Costa Rica. I was like, I'm not going back to the States, but it's going to, everybody started to get depressed too. Like I started to get depressed. My honey started to get depressed. My daughter started to get depressed. It was like, okay, I have to make an executive decision. So
mm,
SMA was the closest place that we didn't have to get back on a plane for, with all of our suitcases and our dog and each other. And so we called our driver, and it was a Thursday night when I made the decision. Everybody was asleep. And Sunday we were in San Miguel. And
wow.
I didn't even, we weren't even intending to stay. I just needed a break. I just
Mm,
needed a break. And we
mm,
ended up staying in SMA for almost 3 years.
wow. Again, I will say I hate that you had that experience, and I'm really sorry to hear that. And obviously, I'm glad that you were able to pivot and you landed in SMA. And it seems from what I could, anyway, from what I could tell, you can tell me now that I'm talking to you if it's different. From what I could tell, it seemed like your life was very beautiful and
Mhm.
full there.
It
Now,
was.
have you been there, or you just like, let's just go somewhere and it's close and we're gonna go?
Yep, that's exactly what it was. Um,
Okay.
it was exactly that because we have been to every other part of Mexico that
Mm,
was considered a major expat or foreigner landing. And SMA was just on our place one day to visit, but never to live and explore. Like we never scouted SMA. And we
okay.
got there and it was just easy. That's when it got easy after 2 months of being in the country. So much so we thought that we were getting ripped off. Like we
Mm,
got our place, like our house, like a week and a half later. I don't know if you saw the House Hunters episode, but that
I
was the
did.
house
I
we found.
did.
And it was just easy. It was nothing, and they were so welcoming, and everybody smiled and waved at you and was friendly. And we thought because of all the things that we experienced in Mexico City that we were getting scammed, and
Mm,
it ended up being the place. And then, just the Black community is huge there. It's just everybody staying at home.
mm.
Everybody at home. Out of all of the places that we've been to in Mexico, SMA has the most Black people concentrated there. But you would
Okay.
never know that because nobody's in the streets. Nobody is in Central. Like, who goes downtown? Like, I'm from the Bay and I'm from Atlanta, but I'm not hanging out downtown every day, right? I'm not hanging out in the center of the city. So when people go
Right.
to visit San Miguel, they're like, well, we didn't see any Black people. Everybody at their house, or everybody's meeting at each other's houses. We're not
Right.
hanging out, in Central all the time. But, Michelle had a, what do you call it? The meetups, the monthly meetups soon after we had gotten there. We got to meet everybody. And those people still are, I really believe Spirit led us to SMA to get our friends that are now our family. I just do because we didn't have any like core friend group until we moved to SMA. And then when we did move to San Miguel, that's when like every person that I'm close to now I met because I was in San Miguel. Like Michelle and I talk all the time. We still have our retreats. We're getting ready to drop our next retreat in the next couple of days. You know, she's my sister. Who else? Bobby, Alum, like those are my, and had I not left or had I not went there and met them, I would have never formed that relationship. So I believe Spirit led us there for that reason.
Yes, yes. And that's definitely the pivots piece of this conversation for sure. And I
Yeah.
think it's easy to, when you hit roadblocks, to think that, oh, let's just scrap the whole thing.
Mhm.
Mexico isn't the answer. And I'm so glad that you, and obviously being the person that you are and who you've described yourself to be, that wasn't going to be your choice anyway. But I like for people to see that and hear that and have that reminder that just because you make a choice and maybe it doesn't pan out exactly how you thought it was going to, does not mean that, okay, just scrap the whole thing. Sometimes it just means, okay, where am I being shifted, or what's the pivot, or where's the next place? So I'm
Mhm.
glad that you were able to be in that space to do that. And I think as we get older, a lot of times it can be easy to do that,
Yeah.
to think, well, let me just go back. Let me just go back to what's comfortable, or what seems certain. Let me just go back to this. I shouldn't be doing this anyway. I'm too
Yeah.
old to be trying to move here, there, there. All excuses
Yeah.
that can come up. And I'm glad that you leaned into the next solution abroad for you, and then it turned out so incredibly beautifully
It
for you.
did. It absolutely did. Yeah, but when it was time to go, I was ready. I was like, okay, I'm done.
Okay. And what was that turning point for you? Because that's, of course, my next question is I definitely need to know this, Tracie. I'm very, that transition back to the States and the decision to do that, did that come easily? I'm dying to know all of the details of that.
What started it was, okay, this is gonna sound so cheesy and ridiculous, but what started it was like I am a housewives junkie. Like I
Okay.
love the housewives. And
Me too.
Atlanta is my favorite. And it's
Okay.
always been my favorite, even before I moved to Atlanta. But I rewatched it from the very beginning in October of last year. And
Okay.
I started seeing Atlanta and I started
Mhm.
seeing the trees. So part of the reason why I moved to Georgia from California was because of the tree. I am a huge tree lover. I love
Okay.
I love trees. And so much so, like when we bought our house, it was surrounded by trees. When we got married, I wanted to get married under a specific tree, and we got
Mhm.
married under a specific tree on the coast of Georgia. So
Mhm.
when I started seeing the trees, I was like, oh my God, I miss Atlanta. I miss Georgia. And then I
Mhm.
started seeing like different colors and the different landscape. And then it started to spark memories of what I missed. And
Mhm.
what I began, and I sat on it. I didn't say anything for probably like a month or two. And the reason
Mhm.
why I didn't say anything was because I wanted to be certain. I didn't
Yes.
want it to be just rash. I wanted
Mhm.
it to be, no, you ready, like you, and really want to go back. But it wasn't like, okay, I said something and then we packed our bags. Honey would have been ready to go. Like she was
Oh,
just
really?
there. Oh, child. She was, oh, she had been ready to go, but she
Okay, so
was
you
just,
say been ready. You were there for 3 years. When did her
yeah.
been ready begin? When did her been ready begin, do you think?
For her, because she really liked Mexico City, and she was like, well, if I can't be in Mexico City, I really don't want to be anywhere. So she settled for being in SMA, but she also was glad that we were out of Mexico City because of what we experienced. So
Right.
but for her, the been ready part was a lack of access.
Okay.
So when you're from a big city, you're used to just getting things easily and
Yes.
access to everything you want when you want it.
Yeah.
And it wore on her in more ways than not. And plus we experienced some losses. I don't think I've ever really publicly talked about it, but our dog died in our house, and then he ended up getting kennel cough because of whatever reason, and he ended up dying in our house. And then 2 months after we had gotten in our house, her godson died, and so she was experiencing things on a different level, that was also compounded by grief.
Yes.
So, and when her dad died, which was shortly before we left the
Mm,
States, it left her mom in Alabama essentially alone. And
mm,
so us leaving and her dad dying, it only added more fear onto her. And then at some point she felt like, oh, she was okay because her godson was there. But her godson ended up dying 2 months after we got to San Miguel. He ended up getting killed in a car accident.
oh,
So
oh, oh
it
my
was
goodness.
it was so her level of, fear and concern for her mom, it
Yeah.
was just weighing on her. And then she is somebody who just doesn't, she's very type A. So when you
Mm,
remove that kind of type A person who's not as easily malleable as somebody like myself, it just
mm,
wears on them. So I, saw it taking more and more of like a physical toll, an emotional toll, and a mental toll on her. And then me, I was just eventually I just got ready to go back. But what made it more certain was the extortion that happens in Mexico. It's a part of the Mexican culture. And Michelle and I were just talking about this yesterday, to where they will just, the gringoing is really bad. I don't know about Mexico City, but in SMA, it seemed like in the last year they have gotten so much worse. And we
wow.
knew we weren't going to be charged, Mexican prices. We never expected that. But, they would sometimes 3, 4, and 5x what the average price of certain things are, from rent to the cost of certain services to,
Right.
it's just like, and there's no standardization around cost. So they can
Right.
see you and be like, something can cost 100 pesos, but they're going to charge you 1,000 just because you are from the States. And I
Mm,
can't help where I'm from. I don't expect to get Mexican rates, but I also
right.
don't expect to be disrespected because I'm trying to give you business. But
Mm,
in SMA, they didn't have the concept of like, let me do good so they can keep coming back. It was like, no,
ah,
let me get you and get you
right.
good, and I don't care if you come back. And it just
Mm,
kept happening to us in different places, and in different ways. And I just like, it just got exhausting. It
sure.
became exhausting. And so it just further solidified us deciding to leave. But
Mm,
when we did, before we even told our friends, we sat down and did a pros and cons list of the United
mm,
States and Mexico. We wrote it down. And
okay.
we and Honey did research as far as like the cost of goods, and because SMA is extremely expensive. They will, child. I mean, I'm sure Mexico City, it's not as expensive to buy certain things because it's an abundance of things, but SMA is a
Sure.
small town. So they are
Mhm.
going to, you're not only going to pay for the cost of customs, you're going to pay because it's hard for us to even just get it here.
That's right.
And so it was just an exorbitant amount. And people who have been there for years, we would run into in the grocery store and they'd be like, oh my God, this is so expensive now in the grocery store. And we understand inflation and what was going on in the States. But one of the things that Honey did was she sat and did so she looked at the cost of Publix versus City Market. She looked at La Cumbera versus Kroger. She looked at Costco Mexico versus Costco in the States. Like, she really got detailed. And what
Mm,
we found out was that you would pay less for groceries in the States. And what we were paying as far as living, as far as our living expenses, we could find something that is comparable in Georgia, what we were paying in for our house
okay.
in San Miguel. So it was like we got really detailed with the analysis part. And it just made, and the more we talked about it, the more we thought about it, we was like, I'm ready to go. And it's so good that we made that decision, because in the midst of us, so it's like we told our landlord um, the first or second week of April that we were leaving at the end of the month, you know, and it's a good thing that we did, because her mom ended up having a medical emergency. So she had to fly out and be with her. And I just kind of just wrapped up all of the loose ends and then went to California.
Wow. First of all,
That was what happened. You asked.
No, listen, I'm just saying, wow, because there were so many things that you said that were surprising to me in terms of, now, yes, I mean, there is a such thing, obviously, as gringo tax for sure. I here in Mexico City, maybe it's just not, maybe I'm just not as, I'm not as present to it happening. Like, I know it happens, but I guess it hasn't come to a point where I have felt it to the degree that you are speaking on it here. And I am also just shocked when you did your analysis, just seeing that you would actually be coming out better in the States in terms of costs. That's also very illuminating. The question that I do have is, in terms of your pros and cons list, did anything land on the list as it pertains to the political landscape, or what it just feels like being back in the States at all?
No, I'm Black everywhere. There's anti-Blackness everywhere. They'll be dead soon, you know, and we still got to deal with their offspring. But I know how to navigate in a country where, you know, being on the defensive, but I also know how to move offensively, meaning like I know how to move in certain spaces or not in those spaces, or go put myself in those places. From the politically, I don't give a damn. I really don't. Because what I did learn was, no matter where we are on the globe, as long as you have the USD that you rely on, you are going to be impacted. That is one thing that I learned about being abroad, because whatever happens with the USD, it is going to dictate how you move. And it just, from a stock investment perspective, from a business entrepreneurship perspective, and people having the money or the income to invest into themselves, it impacts you no matter where you are on the globe.
And so, and sure, yes. And it sounds like even when you made the decision to live abroad, it was not brought about through that lens. The reason why you were going to seek something is because you had already been thinking about living abroad, but you weren't doing it for where I think that there's a, you know, obviously in the past few years been more of a mass exodus of in particular Black Americans moving because of the reasons. It just sounds like to me it was more kind of just right out of your own desire to do so, coupled with the respite that you were looking for. And when you went to Mexico, you felt that you would get it there when you first went with your daughter and then returned.
Yeah, and I did, but you know, I also felt in my gut at that time that something is going on with this country, and I don't want to be here when it happens. And I felt the stark opposite in coming back, meaning like we have to go through 2026, but something is, for me, in my gut, in my spirit, mid 2027 is when you'll see the shift, and you'll see it in the right direction. So I felt it going out, like, okay, I need to get away. But I also feel coming back in. That's why I said they'll be dead soon. I can say they'll be dead soon. And so, but I also feel like I operate in tunnel vision. Like, I'm in a real space of worrying about yourself, meaning worrying about me and mine and what I can control. So keeping that tunnel vision, I think, has also helped and will continue to lead to an ease in restabilizing back or reacclimating back into the States.
Yeah. And I do think that's incredibly important that when we are making these life-changing decisions and pivots, that the hope is that we're doing so from a place, like you just said, from your instinct, from your gut, spirit, whatever it is that you call upon for your guidance, that you're
Right.
doing it from that place.
Yeah.
Because if you are only doing it externally, that is sure to keep you most likely where you are, or to drive you away when maybe that's not even where you're supposed to go. You know what I'm saying? So it can go both ways. So I
Yeah.
think it's important to have that grounding and that knowing, because if you are going to just be kind of tugged and pulled based upon only what you see externally, I think that's when you can run into trouble.
Yeah.
And when you get to midlife, again, like I said, I think we get older, at least I've seen in my experience, the risk aversion becomes greater because you have the conditioning of what you think your life is supposed to look like when you get to a certain age.
Yeah.
And then you think about moves or pivots or doing something completely outside of what you had always thought you would do
Mhm.
as being viewed as unstable. And
Right.
I
Right.
push I push so hard against that notion and that idea, but I do think that comes up. So I'm also curious to know for you, and it doesn't sound like it because we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the conversation. It doesn't sound like you were ever in a space where age or getting older or being in midlife dictates anything you do or do not do.
Because I don't think I'm there. Like, I really don't. Like, I'll be looking at my friends and folks having hot flashes, and I'm like, okay, girl. Like, no, I can't relate. Like,
That
I
is,
really
well, good
just,
for you.
I
Good for
don't,
you that you
I
escaped hot
don't,
flashes. Let me
like,
know.
I'm just, I know what my birth certificate says,
Mhm.
but I don't feel that way. If I could put a feeling on my age right now, I would feel that I'm like 35.
Okay,
Like,
yes.
but so, because to me, it just, I don't, I really, I really believe in aging gracefully and taking care of myself,
Mhm.
um, in every way, not
Mhm.
just, in the physical way, or, what looks cute or what's trendy. It's like, how can I just do the least but gain the most? Like that, that
Yes.
is like,
Yes.
how can I make my mental and emotional load easy? And then also, how can I put myself in a place that makes me feel good, and nature does that for me. Like,
Mhm.
it's like, if I could just show you the, like, just the trees, and I keep saying that because it just symbolizes life. And
Yes.
unfortunately, San Miguel was dry. It was dry. It was like so dry. I was like, Lord, can we get some rain? What
Yeah.
do we need to do, a rain dance? And
Right.
I need moisture. I'm from California, and then I
Mhm.
moved to Georgia, which is a tropical place. So I've always had even just the moisture in the air. So I just believe in health.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
believe in health. I believe in whatever I need to do to be healthy. That's what your girl is going to do. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that means where am I putting my body?
Mhm.
Where am I immersing my everyday person? And
Right.
and so, yeah, that's why I don't like midlife. Krista, when I tell you, it don't even resonate with me. It sounds so funny.
Okay. Okay, listen. And this is
It
the whole point.
does.
But no, listen, this is the whole point of why I have these conversations, because everybody has a different feeling about aging. Everybody has a different experience as it pertains to midlife and what can and can't,
Yeah.
what is and what might not be, what they might, I can't even talk, what they may or may not be experiencing physically. Everybody has a different feeling and entry point and experience around it. So
Mhm.
that's why I love having these conversations, just to get a varied viewpoint about it, because we know what society tends to say about aging, and in particular, women aging,
Mhm.
and a lot of the things that are put out there in terms of devaluing women even more as they age. And
Right.
so being able to have people to speak to their experiences and how they're pushing against that type of rhetoric, I think
Mhm.
is incredibly important. So I'm glad to hear how you feel about it and where you stand in this conversation. And then, so when you think about your 25-year-old self, so has this been who is the Tracie we see now someone that you've always been in terms of being, enterprising, in terms of just going with, your gut, your spirit, going with the flow? Has that always been who you are? Or has that something that has come through experience, age, etc.?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been one to follow direction. I don't
Okay.
follow anybody else's direction.
Okay.
And I've always been that way, even as a kid. Like I would always get in trouble for my mouth. Like I would always get in trouble I would always be sent to the principal's office because I talked back.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And I always get in trouble at home. Like I still get in trouble for my mouth. It's just been a part of my life.
Uh-huh.
And it means that I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So
Mm-hmm.
when my daughter said, "Oh, so mom, you're moving to Mexico," I was like, "Girl,
Right.
check my record. I can
Right.
show
Like,
you that I can
did you
kill
just
you."
meet me? You ask your daughter, did you just meet
And
me?
that's what I said. Do we just meet? So
Yes.
I think it's, a combination of both, but I also believe it's just kind of who I am. I'm gonna do what I want. And I don't believe I owe anybody an explanation. I don't give my mother an explanation. Well, do you think I'm going to give you one? Like, so that's how I think. And
Mhm.
and not, it doesn't vibe with everybody, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm
Yeah.
okay with that because
Mhm.
I'm not hurting anyway. And my oldest that just came in here not that long ago, she says, "Mom, you living your life bothers people." And
Mm.
she's told me that like a couple of times recently. And I said,
Yes.
I don't know why, because I just mind my business. I just mind my business. I can control Tracie. And
Right.
so I just as long as I'm not hurting myself or anybody else, that is the goal. Like,
Right.
and I always want to be the possibility of. I don't, I want to be the possibility of. I want another woman, Black woman in particular, because I am one first, to be able to say, "Oh, hi, honey," to be able to say, I see myself in her, or I want that in my, be able to identify something that they would like to see in themselves. But we must first see it in someone else,
Absolutely.
So because I know I look for in other women or in another Black woman. So it's just
Mhm.
been a combination of all of that.
Mhm. No,
Mhm.
I love that. And yes, minding your own business bothers people. Yes, living your own life and minding your own business can bother people. But to your point, we have to not be bothered by that,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, this is the life that we get to live, and we have to do it authentically and what feels aligned for us, and not by someone else's design. And that's what I really hope that whoever is watching takes from this
Yeah.
conversation, because I think that it's very important. So what would you say to a woman that is watching this right now, who is in midlife? And I keep saying that. I know that you're saying
I
you
know
can
it's
only,
the title, so we just gonna let you
and
get
we
away.
got to go with it, because it's what I talk about. So I know it's not necessarily like you said, it feels strange to you, but for the sake of those that do come to the channel and they are in midlife, and a woman that feels stuck or unsure about making a major life change, what's some advice that you would give her?
First of all, they already know. They just don't want to act on it. I don't believe in not or being unsure. It's in the fear of action. It's execution that's the issue. And the reason why I say we know, especially as women, is because we have our intuitive guide. God, men don't have that intuition the way that women do. And when you move intuitively, you already know. Like you know. So it's the execution in that. So then I would say explore the fear around the execution. What is that part? And
Mm-hmm.
why? And then you can unpack whatever that means and looks like for you so you can get to the next level. But on the other side of that fear is freedom. And
Mm-hmm.
so like stepping through it, and I always like equate it, I guess probably because of my background, but equate it to childbirth. Childbirth is the worst pain ever, and then you come out of it and you forget. But it was
Mm-hmm.
like you had to go through that, to
Yeah.
be reborn. You're rebirthing you, and then you're birthing another human being. But you had to go through that tough period of time to immerse into something new. And so unpack and really be quiet with yourself so you can hear your voice. Like whatever your stillness is like get still and get in nature and figure it out. Like, and don't tell people, like, you don't have to tell a mass amount of people. You don't have to tell anybody anything until you're ready. But for people who are sitting on a level of uncertainty, it's like, get quiet, get still, get in nature, be quiet again, figure it out. But it's the fear of the execution because you've always known.
Mm-hmm. I think beautifully put. And I think that's very true. 10 times out of 10, we know what it is that we want to
You
do, but it's
know, like, why are
like,
we wasting time over here? It's like,
right.
like you
Yes.
already know.
Yes, you know you're being pulled in a direction, but like you said, it's the
Right.
fear of what's this going to mean, or what is it going to look like, or how am I going to do it? We start going down the rabbit hole of trying to figure everything out. And it's just like you said, it's like nobody asked you all that. Just yes. And then the path is always made clear once we say
Always. It's
yes. I
always made clear. And that's also the beauty of certain things is the not knowing what's on the other side, but the bravery to go through it because you're being led and you don't know why. Like, okay,
Mhm.
I don't know. You don't have to know. You don't have to have all the answers. That's not your
Right,
job. Like it's
right.
not. Your job is to trust. Your job is to have faith. Your job is to go through. But your job is not to stay stuck in fear.
Yes. Oh, that's never the job.
That's
Yes,
not your job.
yeah, that's never the job. I think that is a beautiful way to put a bow on this conversation. Thank you so much, Tracie, for sitting down with me. Before we go, I always do a quick what do I call these? Like rapid fire, this or that
Mhm.
type thing. So
Oh,
let's see.
I love those.
Okay, oh, and I have one that I just thought of based upon something you said in the conversation.
Okay,
So,
go.
but I already know what you're gonna say, so I gotta let you. Okay, okay. Real Housewives of New Jersey
Hmm.
or Real Housewives of Potomac.
Potomac all day. I'm gonna go black all day.
And I kicked my. I started to think to do a different one. I was like, she's
Oh,
going
there.
to say
If
Potomac.
you could have said Beverly Hills, and I would want Beverly Hills because I am an Erica
Really?
Jane fan. When I tell you
Okay,
I
you would.
love me some Erica Jane, Erica Jane
Okay.
can tell somebody off
Okay.
beautifully. I
Okay, you're
love me
right.
some Erica Jane.
I should have
I like
thought
Kyle too.
a little bit
I love
more.
Kyle.
Okay,
Yeah.
so sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Okay.
Both. I can
Uh,
take both, but I prefer sunset.
okay. So mountains or the beach?
The beach because of the water.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Fall or spring?
Because I am an autumn baby. I'm fall is my favorite time of year, but my second is spring.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a fall girl. I mean, I was born in the spring, but fall is actually my favorite season.
Fall. Hmm.
And then finally, let's see, hip hop, old school hip hop,
Hmm.
or house?
Oh God, I have to go old school hip hop. I am not a house girl.
Okay. Me either. I know like one house song, Follow Me, is probably the
Oh,
only house song that I'm like, I love. But
I didn't know.
generally
Only
speaking,
Chicagoans be like, okay, but definitely old school hip hop for me.
yes, absolutely. All right. Tracie, again, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom, sharing your journey.
Thank
And again, if you're watching this, and thank you for your daughter for sticking in here with us.
you, honey.
And if
My
you're
oldest, that is my ride or die. That is the one we grew up together. She's been
yes, oh, I
with
love
me
it.
since she was 17, since I was 17. So
Wow, okay.
yeah,
I love
that's
it. And this is the daughter that was in Mexico with you.
no, she came at some point, but the youngest is the one who initially moved, her sister.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. And again, if you're watching this from the future, please let us know in the comments. Give us a like and a comment. Let us know what your biggest takeaway from this conversation was. Once again, thank you so much, Tracie. And I will see
Thank
everyone in the next Candid with Krista. Bye.
you.